Welcome into another episode of Clipboard Conversations. I'm John Folke alongside Hornets head coach James Borrego. Coming up, we're going to take your questions in our Ask JB segment. Don't forget, you can follow the Hornets across all their social media channels, and we will be sourcing questions from you each week for the program, and we'll take a look at kind of what's ahead as the Hornets will head out on a 3-game road trip coming up. But first, Coach, let's talk about some of the trends. And over the last couple of weeks, we've seen Terry Rozier, and we talked about it last week. The three-point shot starts falling for him, and you've called him elite on catch and shoot threes. And I think what's amazing about watching him and catch and shoot threes, he's not necessarily just standing there in the corner waiting. He's moving a lot to get into those catch and shoot threes. They're pretty difficult shots that he's making.
Yeah, not an easy shot to make, but a lot of these elite catch and shoot guys are just standing in a corner, and there's a play made, and the ball gets kicked to them, and they're shooting at a high level. We got to do it in other ways. Terry's on the move, transition, on the weak side. So those are tough, difficult shots, but he's finding great balance out there. It's his rhythm. It's really what he's been for his career. He's been this type of shooter, but he's just taking it to another level right now, become more elite, as you said. So we need that production from him. I got to find ways, as I keep saying, to manufacture some more catch and shoot opportunities for him.
You talked about playing Devontae and Terry together and going back to last season with Kemba and Tony Parker and trying to find some plays that worked there with these guys. What sort of similarities do you see between Terry and Devontae and maybe Kemba and Tony just in terms of skill set?
Well, I think Devontae, the ability to shoot off the bounce, I'd give that to Kemba. He's more in the Kemba range right now with the ability to shoot off the bounce, from range, from three, beyond the three-point line as well. So, he's in that category. Terry's got a little bit more downhill right now, getting to the rim. He's got the physical, the size. Obviously, Tony's different in that he's such an elite finisher at the rim. We want both these guys to get there someday. We're not there yet, but we're trending towards that we want to get to the paint and finish at a high level, and we're not there yet as a team. And that's one thing that we've learned from Tony watching him all these years is that ability to get in the paint and finish around contact. He was one of the elite guys probably that I've ever seen in the NBA do that. So we want to trend that direction. But you got to give both those guys credit. They both helped Devontae along this path, and he watched two great examples, and I think he's trying to mimic both of them.
And I see a little bit when you talk about Tony, how good and crafty he was kind of in that floater range. You can see a little bit of that from Devontae right now.
Devontae's trying right now, and I think he's not trusting it quite yet, and we want him to trust it. We're working on it. It's that little in-between shot. I can't get all the way to the rim. They're taking away my three. Now what is your shot? It's that little teardrop, obviously, that Tony mastered over the years, and then also just getting in there and kicking it as well. That's an art in itself, and I think Tony's done that at a high level. Kemba had, started to trend that direction. When I get to the paint, it's about drive and kick and finding opportunities for those catch and shoot guys.
And drive and kick, your passes over the last week have gone up. I think the Golden State game, the Brooklyn game, you were above 300 passes per game, below that against Atlanta. But overall, the 300 passes, you had the 30 assists. I mean, there's more to ball movement than just assists.
For sure. I mean, you're changing the sides of the floor. You're moving the defense. For us, if we stay on one side of the floor, not good. We don't have that player yet, to where we can just hand him to him and say, go create for us one-on-one. That's not our advantage. We've got to move a defense side to side, and it takes passing. And then we find our times to drive a gap or hit a pocket pass or make a skip pass or drive a closeout. But we got to do it by moving the ball side to side, and that's where those numbers come in, where we want that thing changing sides, multiple guys touching it, making the defense have to guard multiple actions.
I brought it up at practice yesterday, but P.J. Washington on a pick and roll, driving in, dropping that pass off to Biz. And when you kind of go back and watch that play as a whole, there's guys moving around on the perimeter, there's dribble handoffs, then it goes into the pick and roll, then it goes into P.J. dropping it off. Is that kind of what you're talking about to exemplify moving the ball side to side and attacking and finishing?
Yeah, in our offense, we're trying to misdirection, move the ball, DHOs, dribble handoffs, multiple passes into an action. And that's where we're trying to, get the most out of our offense there. As I said, if we just run one type of action, defense is set, it's stagnant offense, that's not our advantage. We got to do it with multiple ball handlers, DHOs into some type of misdirection. That's where you get a pocket pass. And you got to give our guys credit. When the bigs are catching right now in the pocket, they're making the right play 9 out of 10 times, whether it's big to big, a skip, or a finish. And we just continue to drill that and work it. But I think in general, our ball movement's there. It's further ahead than I expected, and we just got to keep demanding it and showing it. And I think our games that have been successful are proven that when we move the ball, that's a good formula for us.
All right, coming up, we're going to take a look at the road ahead as the Hornets head out on the road 3 straight away from Spectrum Center. But next, we're going to take your questions. It's our Ask JB segment. It's coming up right here on Clipboard Conversations. Time for our Ask JB segment. We ask you to ask us questions to ask JB. That's how this thing works. So be sure to follow the Hornets across. Be sure to follow the Hornets across all their social media channels as we'll be asking for your input on our Ask JB segment. All right, the first one is coming from CC Lewis 8, excuse me. She says, "Hi, Coach JB. Why is it difficult for the team to start strong and play a full 48-minute game?"
It's a great question. It's a challenge for not only the Hornets, but it's most teams in the NBA. 48 minutes is a long game. 82 games in a season is a long game. There's got to be a focus from the start and a focus down the stretch. And you have to have guys that stay in tune. They don't relax throughout a game. They don't take a play off. And there's a discipline that comes with that. There's a responsibility that comes with that. And it's just something we have to continue to work on. And you know, I've seen it here, but I've seen it in other teams as well. Teams, elite teams that I've been with, you know, not playing a full 48-minute game. And for us, we can't allow that. You know, for us, we have to play a complete 48-minute game. I think the Golden State game at home was probably the closest thing we've been to a 48-minute game. And you know, some teams try to jump on you early, and you gotta swing right back. You can't be on your heels. We want to be the aggressive team early. And sometimes as young players, they ease themselves into games. They think, you know, it's a long game, we're going to be fine because it's worked before. And the reality is that doesn't happen. You got to hit first. The teams that hit first most times in this league give themselves a shot down the stretch. And we're continuing to work on it. We're continuing to address it. Our guys understand the importance of that, and we just got to keep hammering it.
Here's one from Hornets Beard Guy. We saw MKG on Sunday. Do you see him getting more playing time moving forward?
I'm going to give him some run here and see, you know, what he looks like, and you know, he's staying ready, and he's the one guy, and I put Billy in that category. They're probably the two candidates right now that have not, you know, received a ton of minutes this year. And both guys have continued to work behind the scenes in practice. They're doing what we ask. This is a stretch here to give MKG some run. And
I think just a credit to him and to Billy that, you know, over 20 minutes in that ball game for MKG, just staying committed, staying ready from a conditioning standpoint to be able to go out there and give you those minutes.
Yeah, not easy to come in, you know, first time out there to go 20 minutes, you know, I think he was a little gassed there for a minute, but that's expected. And but Billy's doing a great job even behind the scenes, and he's not a forgotten man, and to our fans out there, you know, he's valued, and he's got a great attitude, and he continues to work when nobody's watching. I think I could put him in a game and he would play hard, he'd play well, but we just log jammed at certain positions. I can't play them all.
Here's our final one from X Tyler Creator X. Do you think this team will continue to build their chemistry and start to hang with some of the elite teams in the league?
Yes. Yes, I think it just comes with time. You know, you just got to continue to build and grow and trust, and I think they're trusting each other. Obviously, we got a heck of a schedule. You know, that's not getting easier from here. We just got to keep pounding away. But yeah, I think to compete with these teams, you got to trust each other. You got to trust your system. Ultimately, you got to play hard and play physical, and we're trying to trend that way. And you know, I think our defense is improving. That's how you hang with those teams. You compete, you defend, you take care of the ball. If you do that, formula-wise, you can hang with anybody in this league.
All right, good stuff. Thank you all for your questions. Again, follow the Hornets across their social media channels. We'll be asking for your thoughts throughout the week. When we come back, we take a look at the road ahead for the Hornets as they head away from Spectrum Center. That's coming up right here on Clipboard Conversations. Final segment, we take a look at the road ahead, and we're in the midst of the season of giving. And I think the work that Cody Zeller has done recently, the work that Biz has done, PJ Washington, you were a part of it with the cornucopia event and the street turkeys. I mean, as we look ahead, this Hornets team, organization, franchise is doing a lot of great stuff for the community. How fun is it to be involved in this and to see your guys with the holiday shopping last night, just interacting and really being so engaged in this season of giving?
I'm just proud to be part of an organization that lives it. I've been a part of some places, where that may not always be true, but we live it, we speak it, and our guys, to their credit, they bought in. They're all bought in. They're doing their own things individually or with the organization, giving back. That's what it's about. Ultimately, we're very fortunate to be in this position. And now to give back to our community is just fantastic. So I couldn't be more proud of our players, our organization. It starts at the top with our owner giving back and making sure this community is in a great place. And we just want to leave this place, better than when we got here. And I think we're stacking up those bricks and building something better and something that's sustainable. And a lot of that goes back to giving. And I think we do have guys that have hearts that they want to give back and they value people. And I'm just proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's super fun to watch just how engaged the guys are in every single event. All right, as we look ahead here, we've got a road trip coming up, Brooklyn, Chicago, and Indiana. One thing, and it starts tonight at home with the Washington Wizards, defending the three-point line. When we think about Davis Bertans for Washington, he got going. Joe Harris and the Brooklyn Nets, Zach LaVine in Chicago coming up on Friday. How important is that going to be during this stretch run here?
That's big. I mean, those guys can get going and start major runs for them. And I think we saw that in Washington with Bertans, and Beal has that capability, and Joe Harris, as you said. All these guys, feels like every team has one of these guys that can get going. And we got to do a job at running and making these guys put it down. They're elite shooters, and we got to do our job with great effort. So yeah, we have to protect the three-point line. Ultimately, we got to be better in the paint, and I think we're trending that way. But there's always one or two shooters out there that you got to run them off the three-point line. Great example tonight against Bertans. We got to run him off the line, make sure he doesn't get one catch and shoot three. So here's a great opportunity to learn and grow again for us.
Did you see him becoming an elite three-point shooter in San Antonio?
He shot it. He had no conscience he just shot that thing in San Antonio. And I think he got to Washington and just felt, I don't know, maybe more free in Washington and just letting it fly even more. But he is an elite shooter, and he gets it out quick. He's a heck of a player. He's a really good player and a competitive kid.
4 games coming up this week against teams that you've already seen. How does that help with game planning, having some film to go back and look for you as a head coach, for the guys just recognizing and understanding scouting reports and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially our young group there, now that we've seen a team once or twice, it's fresh, and then now we can go execute hopefully at a higher level, the second time around. So yeah, it makes our preparation a little bit easier. Obviously, they're doing a few different things, and guys are, maybe a different rotation out there. But we can really study the film on our previous game, learn something there, and continue to build and grow. But I think it helps our young guys having seen a team before.
Is there an advantage too, just when you think about playoff matchups of you had the back-to-back with Detroit, and now you just saw Brooklyn on Friday, you'll see them again, and Chicago's pretty fresh in the mind, that when you think about, hey, in the long run, a playoff matchup, you're going to have to make game-to-game adjustments in a couple of days, but having these guys start to kind of formulate those types of habits for later on when they do have playoff matchups?
Yeah, I think that's a great example. I mean, I think in the Detroit back-to-back, that next morning after we got to Detroit, we treated it like a playoff game. We got together and talked in groups and strategized about what we just worked on the last game and things that went well, things that went poorly, things that we can improve on. And it really carried over into that next game against Detroit. I think we'll treat maybe this Brooklyn game very similarly, and I think getting our guys, more than anything, getting our guys to talk about those matchups is more important than me standing up to going, guys, X, Y, and Z. I want them to participate in that. And the way they participate is when it just happened, it's fresh in their mind. They can talk and help each other out that way. So that's where you really see growth.
All right, final question here as we look ahead. the Hornets have played, coming into this week, the most games in the NBA.
Great.
Great.
Feels like it.
How has it been balancing the number of games that you've played with practice and development and all those things? Because, I mean,
it's a major challenge, not to cut you off. It's a major challenge. Like, it's, you know, when you're going game to game to game, it is tough to continue to develop and grow and practice and build habits when it's constantly about the game. My challenge as the coach is to step back and go, what's most important for today? I know we got a game ahead. Yesterday, we have a back-to-back coming tonight and tomorrow. Yesterday we practiced, because if we let slippage happen, it will happen in this league. You can quickly let it, you get into bad habits, and we've seen that, and it's my job to nip it right there and say, no, we need to practice and get better. Obviously, when you have a schedule that allows it, you can really maximize that time. We just haven't had the time. I got to find ways and pockets to make sure we're continuing to progress and develop.
Well, I was going to say, even with the schedule, you've still seen guys develop. I mean, from Terry that we talked about, from Devontae, and I mean, Biz and Cody and everybody, you're still seeing that development despite the fact that it has
I couldn't be more proud of these guys. I mean, what they have done in this shorter period, the way they've played, stuck together. I think we went to this year saying, look, let's stay together, let's stay positive. I think we've done that. Through this tough stretch, through all these games, we've stuck with it, and we've seen a lot of guys develop and trend the right way. There's a lot of good going on here, and we'll continue that.
Coach, appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Head coach James Borrego, this is Clipboard Conversations.